Greetings and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be focusing on the role of America in the humanitarian crisis of Yemen. And what inspired me a little bit to do this was recently on my Instagram channel. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's at Kendrick the Activist. I conducted a live public Instagram forum where I discussed how our taxes have specifically created the crisis in Yemen. So a little bit about what this presentation is going to be a policy brief that is on the level of understanding for high school students and college students, because on my platform is specifically tailored um, to engage high school and college students so that we may attain political power and change the outcome that our children, our younger brothers and sisters, and ourselves will be able to live in the future. So I hope you enjoy. So let's get an understanding of where exactly is American intervention in retrospect to Yemen. Currently, there is an operation being carried out called Operation Golden Victory. And basically, what Operation Golden Victory is, um, it is a Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and United States led operation in the port city of Al Hudaida. And basically, um, that city has been taken over from the former Yemeni government, and it is now controlled by the Houthi revolutionary group. And in an attempt to cast out Houthi leadership in Yemen and to restore the former Yemeni president back into leadership, this is a very important victory, and we'll get later on. We'll get into exactly why is this city a very important piece of the puzzle, and why exactly is America why does America even have interest in Yemen from the start? So the battle has already taken place. The battle for this city has already taken place, and it started in the beginning of June 2018. And after this battle has either been won by the Saudi UAE led forces or lost by the Saudi UAE led forces, either way, after the battle, about 70% of this city is not going to have access to food. So that adds on to the 2.7 million people who currently need humanitarian assistance in Yemen. It's going to add on to the 30,000 people who have already had to flee Yemen to seek refuge. And it's going to already add on to the 162,000 Yemeni citizens who have cholera. So it's a very tragic event that's happening right now in Yemen. And we'll get into exactly um, why Yemen is being used as a pawn in a game. So by now, if any of you are already lost, like I was when I first started unraveling exactly what is happening in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula, y'all are probably asking, where is Yemen? Where is it at? So let's take the time to actually discover geographically where is Yemen. If you was to look on any world map and you was to find the Horn of Africa, for those of you who don't know, this is the Horn of Africa right here. And this is a what used to be in pre um, we call it, when I say we, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. So like in pre-Bible times, this whole peninsula was once Arabia, but once you look at the Horn of Africa and you look at the body of land that is located adjacent to the Horn of Africa, that is exactly where Yemen is at, as you can see right here. And there's another also important piece of the puzzle, which is this canal, as you can see, that the Arabian Sea is connected to, and that is how these nations transport their goods through and into the Mediterranean Sea to these nations right here. So this canal is a very important canal in regards to how companies who have um who have like how countries who collect raw products out of these areas and how they transport them to Europe, and then from Europe also to America, and so goes on. So when talking any type of policy, it is very important to understand who are the key roles, like who are the characters that play a key role in the policy, in the construction of the public policy process. So what we're about to go through now is we're about to get a more detailed understanding of who exactly are the public policy characters that play a key role in the Yemen crisis. So we're not going to get too detailed in exactly who are the characters in this formation of United States policy, because I don't want y'all to get too confused. But this is the former Yemeni president who is now dead. His name was Ali Abdullah Saleh, and basically Salah was a very strategic man. He definitely was the one person who appeared to unify Yemen, North Yemen and South Yemen, into one republic, and he was very tactical in his actions, um, in how he carried out politics in Yemen while he was in power. In this picture, you will see the current Yemeni president. However, he is unseated in exile out of Yemen by the Houthis. But this is President Abed Rabo Mansour Hadi. And currently, President Hadi is coordinating with Saudi UAE led, American sponsored forces and getting his nation back under his authority and peaceful, per se. This is the Southern Resistance of Yemen, and we'll get a little bit more detailed about who they are and exactly what key role does the Southern Resistance of Yemen play in the contemporary world. This is the Iranian-backed Houthi revolutionaries. And a little bit about the Houthi revolutionaries. This is the group who currently um, has the dominant power in Yemen right now. And this is the specific group that the Saudi Arabian UAE led American sponsored forces are fighting against currently. And we'll get more into exactly why have the Houthis basically assumed power in Yemen, and why is Saudi Arabia, UAE, and the U.S. specifically against this specific political group from assuming power in Yemen. So another key character in this equation in the Yemen crisis is Riyadh, which is the capital of Saudi Arabia. And when in the realm of international affairs, um, we refer to governments as, like, the specific capitals. So you'll be hearing a lot, if you choose to stay updated on this specific on this specific piece of policy, and you want to become engaged on conversation this specific piece of policy, when you want to refer to the Saudi Arabian government, you would say affairs with Riyadh. And finally, the District of Columbia, also known as Washington, D.C. to most Americans, is the capital of the United States, and they are another key player in this equation. So we talked about the buns, we got the lettuce and the condiments. Now let's start, what is the meat made of? And that is exactly what we're about to get into. The events and actions that shaped the Yemen crisis as we know it today. And this is the meat of the burger. So, when understanding the Yemen crisis, the first thing to understand about how exactly is all this being spurred on, how is all this killing being spurred on, how is all this arguing being spurred on, how is all this drama being spurred on. It comes from this specific religio-political difference between the Sunnis and the Shiites in Arabia. And according to the Council of Foreign Relations, this is the key to understanding the instability in Yemen that has occurred over several years. This instability can even be seen in, in pre-Islamic times, and what many Arabians refer to this moment in time is Jaliyah. And basically, um, what this specific difference is, Sunnis, after the Prophet Muhammad died, Sunnis elected his companion to take the leadership of Islam following his death. However, Shiites favored the election of the Prophet Muhammad's cousin to lead Islam following his death. So there has been a lot of violence, a lot of disagreement on this specific um, political and religious um, argument on who should lead Islam. So what we see today is that that specific religio-political difference has resulted in a civil war that has outbroke in Yemen. And basically, Yemen used to be divided in two nations. It was divided by the states of Turkey and Britain in the mid 1900s. And both of the states had unified into one republic. However, the South Yemenis, Southern Yemenis, um, basically, you know, wanted to divorce North Yemen, specifically because Southern Yemenis identify more with the Sunni sect of Islam, while North Yemenis identify more with Shiite Islam. So in 2007, Southern secessionist movement was born, and you know, a lot of violence broke out from there as well. On that violence coupled with disagreements, so we already have one unsolved issue, um, you know, in dealing with religio-political differences, and now you have coupled that unresolved issue with this unresolved issue on should you know the people who are settled in this land should they be should they operate as one state or should they operate as two states? So by this time, the youth in Yemen had enough. They had had enough. So they took to the streets. And what you call this specific moment in Yemeni history is the Arab Spring. And that is exactly when the government was destabilized in Yemen to allow the series of events that we're going to talk about later to happen. So, um, when the youth took to the streets, a lot of adults followed them. And what these revolutions was able to achieve was regime change, and that is exactly what everybody wanted. And during this regime change, President Saleh, or former President Saleh, was unseated, and he was replaced with the current Yemeni president, Abed Hadi. So after the revolutions took place, everyone was happy. Everyone was trying to get together, so what are we going to do next? President Hadi, what is your next move? All in all, while, North Yemen really wasn't feeling this whole new revolution. And they asked to operate as an autonomous nation or autonomous state. And the former president, President Saleh, took advantage of that opportunity to collaborate with the Houthis or the North Yemen faction um, to basically start a revolution of his own. And basically, what the two forces, President Saleh with his loyalists, coupled with North Yemenis who wanted to operate as an autonomous nation, basically took the capital of Yemen, which is called Sana'a, and exiled the current president, President Hadi, out of Yemen, and they chased him to Hayden. So the trick to understanding all this is President Hadi had actually faked his resignation as president um, when former President Saleh and the Houthis had took over the capital of Yemen. Um, and once they received word that he was in Aden and that he was still trying to basically regain control back over the state of Yemen, they went to Aden and they chased him out of Aden into Saudi Arabia. And that's when things started to get a little more complicated. So in Yemen, you already see that you have a lot of disagreement on specifically who should lead Islam. You coupled with disagreement on should Yemen be one state or two states, coupled with disagreement on who really has control in Yemen. So when President Hadi was exiled to Saudi Arabia, that basically alerted Saudi Arabia about the Shiite revolution that was happening in Yemen. And Saudi Arabia is like the big brother Yemen never wanted to have. They have always intervened in Yemen politics. And Saudi Arabia identifies mostly with Sunni Islam. So it's only natural from them that they're not going to like their neighboring state to be controlled by Shiites, and one that is being backed by Iran, which is another Shiite state that is across the Persian Gulf um, from Yemen. So, and also what makes matters worse is that Saudi Arabia actually birthed the Houthi movement because in the 1980s, basically what Saudi Arabia tried to do, because North Yemen borders like Saudi Arabia. If you remember, if you see on the map, it was North Yemen right here, and then you draw a line, and Saudi Arabia is right there. And they tried to spread Sunni-like teachings into North Yemen and reform their culture. And North Yemen wasn't really having that. So you got the Houthis. So coupled with their neighboring state being taken over by Shiite Islam, and that is Houthis, Saudi Arabia feels as if it is definitely their right to help President I'm sorry, to help President Hadi um, get his nation back under control. And there is way more interest in this as well, coupled with just religio-political interest. So Saudi Arabia gets all riled up, and they're ready to help President Hadi get his nation back and to get Shiites out of power in Yemen. Um, so you have this interesting dynamic relationship that is occurring with the United States and Saudi Arabia. So basically, the United States and Saudi Arabia has had a very, very long relationship, one that has taken place since the 1950s. And basically, what this relationship for the United States is the United States, effort to maintain its dominance in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia is the United States' best friend, you can say, when it comes to conducting affairs in the Middle East and enforcing hegemonic foreign policy. So this relationship surfaced in 1956 when the president of Egypt during that time began to go on a anti-imperialistic campaign. And during that anti-imperialistic campaign, he also nationalized Egypt's resources. So he felt that the resources of Egypt, you know, should, be what spurs their economy on. And he taught against the fear of America coming into their nation and, ruining their local economy by dumping American products into their economy. So President Eisenhower saw that as a threat to, America. And during that time, we were very adamant about increasing our petroleum resources. And with the talks that Egypt was having about nationalizing their petroleum resources, that was, a potential for more states in that area to also do the same. So President Eisenhower had a conversation with Vice President Nixon, and Vice President Nixon basically influenced him to go into Saudi Arabia, to use Saudi Arabia as a counterweight to that nationalist and anti-imperialist movement. So you have this emergence of the United States and Saudi relationship that eventually strengthens because Iran overthrows its U.S. installed dictator and began to nationalize their resources. So while at first the United States and Saudi relationship was based on fighting against Shiite revolutionaries who wanted to nationalize, their resources and compete with America, the United States and Saudi relationship then became one that also not only fought against Shiite Islam, but one that is directly opposed and defensive against Iran and looks at Iran as a threat. So you have all this going on. Saudi Arabia has gotten routed up. Yemen has already been routed up. Now, the United States of America is about to get routed up. And everyone knows you don't want to route up the United States of America. Um, so the the gun companies, they see this as a very interesting opportunity to expand American weapons and to increase the profits that the American industry, that the American weapons industry is seeing at that current moment. So anybody knows that, I would say anybody, but economists knows that when you start talking about the increase of manufacturing of weapons, that's the increase of jobs. So you have more people getting jobs. You have um, a dedicated seller, Saudi Arabia, who's going to purchase these weapons that are being made, and um, Then you have, like, basically United States is the firm who is, selling the weapons. So that's increasing the GDP of America to help us also invest in other things, even though we're only going to invest in defense, which you didn't hear it from me, to invest in other things and decrease our deficit in debt, even though it has done nothing but grown since then. So during this exact moment when the American weapons industry noticed this was when President Obama was in office. So you have your U.S. weapons manufacturers who go lobby the U.S. government and tell them, like, oh no, no, arms deal is definitely going to be a good thing. More profit, more weapons, more jobs, more money, more GDP, bigger, no deficit, no debt. And as if everyone didn't notice that was happening in the Civil War. That's not, it happened in World War II. It happened in World War One. You know, so President Obama agreed to more than $115 billion of arms that would be given to Saudi Arabia over the tenure in his office. However, um, even though President Obama was in 8 years, $115 billion was given to Saudi Arabia so to help them purchase guns and weapons to fight off the Houthi revolutionary that is going on in Yemen. When President Trump took office, he announced a $110 billion arms deal, and that was just in 1 year, a couple months. It wasn't even 1 year, a couple months into office. Um, that he announced his arms deal that took place. And basically, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was the one who actually negotiated the deal. Um, and he was in contact with Lockheed Martin a lot during this specific negotiation. So even and if it doesn't make matters worse, that even under President Trump's administration, there is lobbyists from Saudi Arabia who is working within the U.S. government that is ensuring that the continuation of this arms deal is happening, so that Saudi Arabia is, like, still having weapons to fight Yemen, to fight the Houthis out of Yemen. So that's just, like, this it's just very unfortunate, like, that you have CEOs of weapon manufacturing companies um, who are basically exploiting this as an opportunity to collect more profit. And I know we talked about all, what we're discussing right now is the meat of the burger, but this specific slide is discussing the seasoning. So all in all, the real, like, I'm not gonna say the real reason, but the main contributing reason as to why everyone, all states involved, why do all states involved really care about um Iran backing the Houthi movement in Yemen? It's because of the Bab el Mandab canal, as you can see that circled right here. And that was the canal that we were discussing earlier, that nations in the Gulf, that states in the Gulf and states that are in the Arabian Gulf, or that borders the Arabian Sea, how they transport their raw products through this canal. So there are many American companies who transport raw products from these states over here and through this canal. And America also it sends its cargo ships, it sends its defense ships through this canal. And with Iran having a defensive policy against the United States, if the Houthis were to obtain, because currently, if they were to obtain power over and maintain power in this specific part of Yemen right here, and this is where Al Hudaida is. This is exactly. Oh, well, it messed. up a little bit, but this is exactly where Al Hudaydah is. We'll shade it in right there. That's exactly where Al Hudaydah is. You can see that's very uncomfortably close to the beginning of the canal. Iran would not allow American ships to transport their raw product through that canal. What makes it so significant to America is because we transport heavy loads of petroleum through this canal. And petroleum is a good that many companies profit off of. It is a good that many citizens use in their everyday life. And it is a good that, you know, basically many people rely on to collect profit off of and to collect income. And it's not just us who, who cares, it's not just us who relies heavily on petroleum importation to circulate money around within our states. So this is definitely a threat, to the current way of American life, specifically due to the fact that not many people invest, have even already shifted their buying patterns to alternative methods of fuel. So in the case that we're not able to distribute fuel or petroleum through this canal, we're going to witness I don't want to call it um, an extreme increase in the price of oil, but it's definitely going to be a huge price because we're going to have to figure out how to take petroleum instead through the Bab el Mandab Canal and maybe through Ethiopia, through train, and then through Eritrea into the Red Sea, and then up to distribute it through Europe. Or we may even have to go around the entire, the entire African continent. Um, so it's not going to be, that is why, like, I always tell people it is very, very, very important that now is the time that we need to begin investing and searching for alternative methods of fuel um, in our nation. So, with all that being said, the current policy for the United States of America in Yemen is to ensure that we are able to import petroleum efficiently at the same rate at how we have been importing petroleum into our nation and other nations worldwide. Um, Iran could potentially use this opportunity as a way to increase their petroleum resource because it is a highly lucrative good, and use that opportunity to increase their GDP, invest more into defense, and potentially increase the amount of human casualty they can create um, in nations who they oppose. So this is an opportunity as the current American government sees to protect civilians in America from a possible nuclear attack from Iran, because a higher GDP means that they could develop the nuclear technology to attack us with nuclear weaponry. And it also is an attempt to protect the way of life as we know it today from preventing people from not having any more jobs, from preventing people from not being able to transport their own selves around anymore. I mean, because truth be told, I mean, public transportation wouldn't even be able to function if there is no fuel to get to America in the time that we have been bringing it into America. I mean, we do have our own supply, but it's not as heavily as the other supplies we are tapping into to circulate that specific good around our nation. So the United States is, helping Saudi Arabia, to me, to my knowledge, the best of the knowledge I could provide, specifically because they understand that region better than we do. So we're sponsoring their armies with the weaponry they need to use the knowledge they have to prevent a catastrophe like this from happening, and to prevent Iran from becoming a more powerful nation than they already are. So that's basically, Yemen is being used as, I don't, at the end of the day, it is a pawn. It is a strategic piece in the puzzle to defeating Iran. Um, and as you know, as I said earlier before, Iran is seen as a opposer to America, specifically because of our hegemonic policy. We're not going to go there today. Um, However, there is still an opportunity to develop peace around a specific issue, and there is an opportunity to impact Earth more positively by creating solutions, more progressive solutions to this issue than the solutions that we're resulting to currently. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in another YouTube video. So that's the American foreign policy on Yemen. If y'all have any questions, you can contact me via email, kendrickcunningham@outlook.com, or you can message me on IG. Again, my Instagram is @KendrickTheActivist. And I hope you enjoyed this policy brief as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your time that you will be having. Thank you for watching.